Hi, I'm Gordon from Camera Labs and I hate carrying around a heavy bag. So this video is all about how I reduced the weight of my camera and computer setup for my first trip away in over a year. Now do not be alarmed, this is not another gear switch video on YouTube. I would not put you through that. I still love using my full-size camera and computer, but when I travel I like to carry all of my kit with me at all times. I'm not comfortable leaving any of it in a hotel room or in the back of a car. And the trouble is as I get older, I'm finding that increasingly hard to do. And since this particular trip was going to involve some long hikes up and down a few of the mountains in the UK, I realized that I did need to switch the camera and the computer that I was using. But crucially, I needed to retain that flexibility to take the kind of photos that I wanted, but also to write, edit, and upload YouTube videos while I was away, because if you are a full-time YouTuber, you'll know that that hustle never ends. You have to do it even while you're away. So unsurprisingly, the two heaviest items that I carry with me are my camera equipment and my computer. So let's start with the camera and see what we can do with that. Typically, I'd take a small mirrorless camera with 2 or 3 compact lenses, like the Fujifilm X-S10 setup I've got here. When stored in my slim f-stop ICU, I'm normally looking at just under 2 kilograms for this kind of collection, and in this particular case, it's 1,850 grams. Now, in order to match the coverage in a lighter package, I needed to go for a fixed lens compact camera, and I reckon the best all-rounder remains Sony's RX100 Mark VII. I've taken one on several long trips before, and the combination of an 8.3x optical zoom, decent 4K video with good autofocus, flip screen, viewfinder and microphone input remain unparalleled. The main sacrifice versus my normal kit is of course the smaller sensor, meaning reduced quality in low light and of course less chance for blurred backgrounds, plus I can't swap any lenses. Also, if I was only filming video, I'd have gone for the ZV-1 version, but since I needed the viewfinder, the RX100 Mark VII was my best bet, and in a small pouch it weighed 340 grams. Along with my holiday footage, I also used the RX100 Mark VII to film a quick piece to camera as an introduction for a video that Ben and I were working on, and you can see that here. Since I knew there'd be some wet conditions ahead, I decided to complement the RX100 with my GoPro Hero 9 for use in the rain or for carefree vlogging. With the floating vlogging handle, the Hero 9 weighs 260 grams, so my new camera pairing worked out at 600 grams in total, saving 1¼ kilograms over my normal kit. Meanwhile, my Samsung Galaxy S20 would provide a third camera option, as I'd have my phone with me regardless. Now I'm going to show you a compilation of 4K footage from all 3 cameras in just a moment, and if you're interested in the locations that I visited around Wales and the north of England, they're all listed in the description. Okay, now for the computer, and a laptop has always been an essential part of my travel kit wherever I go. And the model that I use day to day is a comparatively small and light one. It's an Apple 13-inch MacBook Pro from 2018, which I actually use for absolutely everything. I do not have a desktop computer at home. I don't even have a docking station and a big screen that I connect it to. I do everything on this small computer, and again, comparatively speaking, it's not that heavy. It weighs just under 1.4 kilograms. However, once you add that into a bag, it really feels like you put a brick in there. So this was a key area for improvement in terms of overall weight. And the first obvious choice I had was whether I could in fact do all of my work on my Galaxy S20 phone, because I would be carrying that with me regardless. So why not try and use it for some of those laptop tasks? Now, before I went away, I did do some tests connecting it to a Bluetooth keyboard, and I found that I could actually quite effectively write on it using this full-size keyboard. However, I did find the screen and the interface was just too small to do any effective photo or video editing. The solution is a device roughly in between a phone and a laptop, which of course is a tablet, and as luck would have it, in 2020 I bought an iPad Pro 11-inch, which was perfect for the job. It weighs 470 grams, so that's 900 grams, almost a kilogram lighter than my laptop, and in terms of processing power, it is certainly fast enough for the job. In fact, for video editing under apps like LumaFusion, it's faster at rendering than Final Cut is on my current MacBook. So it had the muscle, but it didn't have the interface. But again, I was able to connect it over Bluetooth to a full-size keyboard. I use a Logitech K830. I'm not flashy rich enough to buy the Apple Magic keyboard, but I like the Logitech keyboard. It's very, very light, it's full size, and it's got a built-in trackpad as well, which allows you to move the cursor around the screen, and it works fine with my Galaxy S20 phone. Now that keyboard by itself weighs about half a kilogram, roughly 500 grams, but critically, it's not so expensive that I want to or need to carry it with me for security. So I'm happy to leave the keyboard in whatever hotel I'm staying in, or even in the back of the car. If it gets stolen, it's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. So I managed to save almost a kilogram in weight by switching from my laptop to the iPad Pro. And again, that screen size and processing power meant that I wasn't going to miss out on any of the functionality or speed that I needed. But wait, there's one other item that you're going to need if you want to attempt any kind of serious work on a tablet or a phone, and that is a stand to keep the screen upright and facing you. And I just bought a fairly generic one from a company called Lamacall from Amazon. I've put a link in the description. I bought a largish one for my iPad Pro, which worked so well. I then bought a smaller one for my phone. And again, a bit like the keyboard, they're sufficiently affordable that I don't mind leaving them in a hotel room or in the back of the car. They're not mission critical, but they do work really, really well. And to prove that it all worked in practice, I wrote, edited and uploaded my review of the Polaroid Now, the lovely Keith Haring edition, to YouTube while I was away using all that gear that I just showed you. I wrote the review using that Logitech Bluetooth keyboard connected to my S20 phone, and then I edited the footage in LumaFusion on the iPad Pro. And in fact, everything worked very, very smoothly until I wanted to upload it to the internet. And this is often an area where you get scuppered when you're traveling, especially if you're a YouTuber and you're working with very big files. You see, most of the videos that I like to present to you are filmed and edited and uploaded in 4K. And as such, they generally work out between 5 and 15 gigabytes each, which is a pretty hefty chunk even on your home broadband. But when you're traveling, it can be a real challenge. And in fact, I tried and failed to upload this file for this review using mobile data as I was traveling around the north of England. I left it running for a week and it still only got about halfway there. And I also tried and failed to do it in each of the hotels that I was staying in. And it was a different one almost every night during that period, and not one of them was fast enough to achieve that. So I resorted to a tried and trusted technique from long ago when I used to travel a lot more. When I needed a really fast internet connection, I just headed to my nearest Apple store. And if you own an Apple device, that is your point of entry, really. They're quite happy to let you connect to their Wi-Fi. There's not normally a password required. In these COVID restricted times, I actually just sat outside the shop. And because there were so few customers inside the shop, I had pretty much the entire bandwidth to myself. And they had in the Leeds store, it was roughly, I measured it at for about 120 megabits for upload and download. So something that tried and failed over a week on my own data actually took about 7 or 8 minutes to upload in the Apple Store. So I was very, very happy to do that. So thank you, Apple Store in Leeds. Okay, so far so good. Just by switching my camera and computer, I'd managed to save quite a bit of weight. But I'd also identified 2 other areas that you may not have considered that could save you pretty much the same again, or even more in some cases. And that is your backpack. And if, like me, you carry water around with you all the time, then that as well. Now, my regular backpack for camera work is my S-Stop Guru Ultralight. I highly recommend this bag, and I've got a separate review of it if you're interested. It is a very light backpack, but it still weighs the best part of a kilogram, in fact, just over a kilogram in weight. And I also use an insulated metal water bottle that keeps my water nice and cold, but that by itself is just under half a kilogram. So the combination, and that is without any water in the bottle, is about 1.5 kilograms. So I wondered if I could do better. So I decided to see if I could reuse one of my existing backpacks, and the first one that sprang to mind was the one that I normally use for snow sports. It's a Daikin Helipack 12, and I originally bought that pack because it is very, very thin enough that you can keep it on your back while you're riding on a chairlift. And for water during a day of skiing or snowboarding, I use a Camelback water bladder, and that combination, without any water in the bladder, again because we're comparing the empty weights there, was about 850 grams. So that's almost half the weight of my F-Stop and my metal water bottle, which is quite a significant saving. Now, the only problem with that backpack is that it's not really designed for carrying gear in the same way that this one is, and it does kind of flop open a bit, especially when you've got some things in the front pouch. And drinking out of a water bladder is never going to be as nice as drinking out of a metal water flask, but again, it did allow me to save quite a lot of weight, so that is what I went for. So the combination of the camera gear, computer, backpack and water bottle gave me some pretty significant weight savings, and as you already saw, I was able to write, edit and upload a video while I was away. But what about the actual footage from my trip itself? Well, dear viewer, allow me to transport you from the beautiful South Downs of Sussex all the way to Wales and the north of England. I hope you enjoy this little compilation of clips that I filmed using the 3 cameras that I took away with me, and I'll see you again in just a moment. I hope you enjoyed that. I was quite pleased with the way that some of those clips looked, and they were all straight out of camera, no grading, no extra work done to them at all. And I remain very impressed with what you can achieve with the Sony RX100 Mark VII. I mean, I've already fully reviewed it and taken it away on a couple of big trips, as well as its predecessor, the Mark VI, which shared the same lens. And I fell for the flexibility of that zoom while still being able to film high quality video, and now also connect a microphone to the Mark VII. I mean, it's just an incredible all-round camera. You're never going to be able to get the shallow depth of field effects or great low light performance that you would from a larger sensor interchangeable lens camera, but in terms of compromises with it, there's not a great deal, and I was very, very happy with the results that I got from it. And even today, it remains my #1 choice for a pocket camera for travel. I was also surprised how much I ended up relying on the GoPro Hero 9 in a lot of situations. I already knew from my review that it had fantastic stabilization, but it still amazes me how easily you can just walk with it while holding it very, very casually, indeed at arm's length, just with one hand while clambering over rocks. It's an ideal vlogger's camera, again, so long as you use it in fairly bright outdoor conditions. But what also made it really good for me is that it shrugs off bad weather. So when I was hiking up those mountains in the north of England, when the weather can turn on you and will turn on you, I didn't mind just getting that GoPro out and filming with it. And that in turn was what gave me the confidence also to take it out while using the paddleboard on the lakes and film without any concerns about getting it splashed or even dropping it in the water. And finally, my trusty phone remained invaluable for those times when you don't want to bring a camera out of the bag, you just want to grab some really quick clips. I just wish that it didn't always film in 30 or 60p. Why don't more phones give you the chance to change the frame rate? In this case, I was filming everything else in 25p, so the footage doesn't match as well as it could have done. As for the iPad, well, I'd be lying if I said there were no frustrations at all, but that was more down to me not being as familiar with the apps on it as I am with, say, Final Cut on my MacBook Pro. I hate learning new software, so having to switch from something you're very familiar with into something that you have only just started using is always going to be a bit annoying, but it did get the results that I wanted done. And really the biggest problem I had was that internet connection, and we know how to solve that with either a quick trip to the nearest Apple store or to a library or some other shop that's got really fast broadband. And as for the Dakin backpack, well, it's not really designed for carrying cameras or computer gear. I had some rather heavy items in the pouch at the front that's really designed for carrying lighter goggles, and of course every time you opened it up that flopped forward, and it was just kind of not as convenient. It wasn't as well designed to get camera gear in and out as a dedicated pack is, obviously, but again it did give me a big weight saving without having to go out and buy anything new because I already owned it. And I did get used to the taste of the water from the Camelback, so that worked out for me as well. Previously my backpack, camera kit, laptop and water bottle, without any water in it, weighed in at 4.7 kilograms. In contrast, my adjusted kit totaled just 1.9 kilograms, or about 2.5 times lighter overall, and believe me, I really felt the difference on those hikes. And that, dear viewer, marks the end of this video. I hope you found it useful, and I'd love to hear in the comments about the ways that you've managed to reduce the size and weight of your gear when you're travelling, particularly what you do in terms of an IT solution instead of lugging around a giant laptop all the time. If you managed to successfully transfer your work onto a tablet or even a phone while you were away, I'd love to hear from you. Which only leaves me again to say thanks for watching. If you like what I do here, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. And that's what makes it all worthwhile, the spectacular view, not even from the summit of Snowdon, somewhere near the summit of Snowdon.